with certain people, definitely Lando, it was quite clear that he was going to end up in F1.
All right. So, welcome, Jack, to the podcast. It's nice to have you. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself to start with?
So I'm 21 years old. My day job is I'm a number one race mechanic for Carlin in their British F3 team, which I've been working for them for about 3-4 years now. I got into racing myself last year, about three-way this summer. Brands was my first race, so yeah.
Nice, nice. So working in F3, how did you get to that?
I just did work experience in loads of different places, Williams F1, X-Track, and then eventually landed at Carlin. Did work experience in their what was GP2 team at the time, and then in the following winter they invited me back for a trial to work in their F4 team. But then there wasn't really a place going, so they gave me a place in their European F3 team as a number two mechanic. I did 2 years of that, and then last year I won the British F4 Championship as a number one mechanic, and now British F3. So, yeah.
Nice, that's really cool. Who's the driver for Carlin that you're the mechanic for?
My current driver is Nazmin Asmin. He's from Malaysia.
Cool. And so who've you must have seen quite a lot of the drivers then that are in F1 coming up through the ranks.
Yeah. So I worked with Lando Norris in my first year. I was in the team. I wasn't on his car, but we all looked after various parts of each other's cars. So we all worked on his car at some point, which was cool.
Yeah. And when you saw them racing in F4 and F3, did you think, oh, maybe they're the next person to go into F1, or at that stage is everyone at like such a good level that you just can't tell?
No, I think with certain people, definitely Lando, it was quite clear that he was going to end up in F1 because you look from his junior career, every single championship, bar the British F3 and F2 championship, he's won it and just walked it. Um, and I know that he's had a lot of testing with a lot of backing, but at the same time, no amount of backing can win you that many championships.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. And did being a mechanic for, well, still working as the chief mechanic, or sorry, number one mechanic, did that kind of get you into the racing, or did you always want to get on track at some point and being a mechanic is just another way of getting there?
Yeah, so I've always been interested in racing. I've always wanted to drive, but it's never been feasible until recently. But I've always loved working on cars and being competitive. And what I do now is the combination of both of those things. So they're both dreams and aspirations that I've managed to achieve, really.
Yeah, and do you think that your work has helped you with the racing that you're doing, maybe with the car setup, or even just being around the drivers? Has that helped you on track as well?
Yeah, 100%. Talking with all the engineers and the drivers and just watching what happens, being involved with it makes you, gives you so much more knowledge about how to set up a car and certain ways of how to drive stuff and techniques you can use. So yeah, it makes a massive difference, I think.
Cool, that's cool. So you've always wanted to get into racing. Do you remember your first racing game that you had or you played?
Yeah, so I remember it was on Xbox 360, and I had the original Xbox 360 steering wheel, and it was Need for Speed Shift. That was the first one.
Do you have any idea how many hours you played on that?
Too many. No, I love. Looking back now, it wasn't realistic at all, but it was a lot of fun, and I do think it definitely the sim racing I do now has helped towards my on track driving.
How so?
I just think it's you have no feeling on a simulator, but I think just practicing going around the tracks, learning the tracks, and learning to be smoother with the throttle and your steering and that sort of stuff. It all helps. It's all practice, and at the end, we can't all afford to be on the track as much as I'd love to be 24/7. So it's a great way of practicing, I think.
Yeah, I guess. Well, especially now that tracks are a no-go area, you can't get there. So some type of racing is the best that you can do, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, I've recently just got pedals and steering wheel, but I'm waiting for a stand, and it's really basic setup for it. But at least at least I'll be able to get some sort of steering wheel and pedal action rather than just the Xbox controller.
Yeah,
Yeah, I miss driving anything at all.
yeah.
Yeah. So from starting with games, do you have a motorsport inspiration that kind of drew you into it as well?
Yeah, so my granddad, he started out, he built and raced his own Formula 2 stock cars. Um, and he always inspired me because he never had that much money back in the day. And he couldn't afford the big new engines and all the rest of it. So instead, he designed his chassis better because he had the bits to weld together and he just put his labour and his knowledge and skills into making a faster car without using money, basically, which I thought was really impressive and led to him being really successful in it.
Yeah, I met your granddad at Brands, which was your first race, and he has a
Mm.
little booklet of all of his achievements and his journey through motorsport, and it really seemed like he was quite a bit of a pioneer for his time.
Yeah, yeah. No, he. I remember he got an email a couple of years ago from Derek Warwick, who's a ex Formula One driver and now works with the BRDC, I think. Um, and he said that my granddad was one of the biggest innovators in Formula Two stock cars that he could remember. So that was really cool.
That's really cool. And have you like spoken to your granddad about whenever you're working in F4 and F3? Is there things that maybe you don't know or don't understand? You go, hey, granddad, do you know anything about this?
Uh, he sometimes he asks me a lot of questions. I think he has an interesting theory about tyres, which he's always asking me to try out. He's convinced that the tyre treads are backwards. From when he worked on a farm, I think he said the tractor tyres, the treads go the opposite way, and he's convinced that there'd be a lot more grip under braking if you turn the tread. So instead of the V shape being forwards, it was backwards.
Have you been able to test that?
Yeah, I think we tried. Well, I didn't try it, but someone did by mistake. They accidentally put the two front wheels on left to right, and I think the driver complained there were a lot of understeer. Yeah,
So maybe a bit of a myth, but that's really interesting that even now he's still got the ideas and thinking about it.
yeah, no, definitely is interesting in it still.
Yeah, and obviously your dad he's racing with you in the Z Car series,
Mhm.
so he must have just taken the inspiration and carried it on.
Yeah, yeah, Dad's definitely. But he's always innovated through his campers, who's what sponsors his car, um, and he's done his innovation through there because he's prioritised us as kids over his racing, and it's only now where he can afford to take the time and the money to have some fun for himself, basically. So, but it's great
Yeah,
that I get to do it with him.
yeah, I mean, the campers are really cool. I've seen them at the races, and I did a video for your dad for the auto campers, and they're really cool. They're properly stocked out. Like you have a bit that pops up at the top, and that's
Yeah,
the sleeping area, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. So we didn't do it the last race weekend because he was busy, but me and him always share the camper together. He tows his car behind it, and I tow mine with a van. And it works really well. Really sociable. James can do his debriefing there with other drivers. and it's lovely and cool with the twin doors and the roof that's ventilated. And actually, Mark, the other driver in the 2.2, he was actually ordering one for himself for his racing. But obviously, with all this coronavirus, he's had to put that on hold for a minute.
Yeah. No, but it's amazing all the stuff, even from the swiveling chairs, so you can turn them around and make it into like a meeting area in the middle. Yeah, it's really cool. I love it.
Yeah. No, it's perfectly what we need.
Yeah, it's great. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. Let's go to the other questions that I have prepared. So obviously, yeah. So you're racing with your dad. You're racing in Z Cars. Was Brands last year your first race on track?
Yeah, that was my first ever race, and yeah, it was incredible.
I mean, yeah, for your first race, you did really well. You were battling with Mark in the other 2.2 the whole time,
Mm.
and you qualified very close to him as well. So that, I mean, that must have been amazing for you.
Yeah, no, to be as fast as Mark from the get go, and then to win. I think I won my debut, and then I won the second race as well. But to have the battles with Mark, where we did pretty much a whole lap of Brands, even clean going down Paddock Hill side by side, that was worth more than the win, really.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the
incredible.
onboards from both of you, and it's both all the races were incredible. You're there going back and forth, and I think Mark might have felt the pressure a little bit, and ended up spinning off. But I
Yeah,
mean, at any point, either of you could have taken the win.
yeah, that's what was so exciting about it. It was just he could hold on, hold on the longest, really. Yeah.
How did you feel when you got out of the car? Were you like just completely dead, exhausted, but the adrenaline of winning was keeping you up, or?
Yeah, no, I don't remember feeling tired. I think I was just so excited. I don't know if I'd realised I'd won because the combination of the Z3 classes and stuff. I didn't know if I had our own podium or not, but it was just incredible to have that battle with him. So it wouldn't have mattered if I'd come second or third or whatever. It was more the battle that was the fun part for me.
Yeah, well, I mean that's knocked out, I think, two questions that I had, which is your first race win. Obviously, that was at Brands Indy, and the most exciting battle.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then what was the race after that? It was did you
Snetterton.
Donington?
Sorry?
Did you do Donington, or did you race again at Snetterton at the end of the season?
I just did Snetterton because I
Yeah,
couldn't do the other ones because of work.
yeah. So Snetterton, that wasn't as exciting for you. I think you had a bit of frustration
Yeah.
with the car.
Yes. I couldn't. Well, we had the wet practice, which was the first time I'd driven that track, and it was incredible. Like one of the best laps I put together, and I was like 4 seconds quicker than everyone else, and I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
But then the next day, well, we had the day off, and then Sunday, and it was dry, and it was the first time driving the track in the dry, and I just couldn't get to grips with the track in the dry within 20 minutes, and was well off the pace. And then the race, yeah, I think I had some battles at the start, and then just dropped back, went over the grass, which I later found out had broken my front anti-roll bar, but I didn't find that until after the race meeting, which meant for the second race, I had some really good battles with Eric and Mark, but I got done for track limits because every single corner I just couldn't control the oversteer. And I think, well, this is a racing driver excuse now, but I think it is because my front anti-roll bar was broken.
yeah. Well, that kind of does have a lot of effect when you're driving on the limit. You kind of need that part to work, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not something you can power through, really.
No, but no, that was incredible because I remember it was Eric was in the 3 litre at that time, whereas previously he was in the 2.2, and it was great to be faster than him for quite a bit of it, including going. One race went round the inside of him at Coram and one round the outside at Coram, which was awesome. So.
Yeah, and yeah. So, and you're going to be joining us when we start again this year, whenever that comes around.
Yeah, definitely. I need to see what's happening with my work calendar. Obviously, I can't get out of that. But hopefully they don't clash, and I can do as many races. But I'm sure I'll be there for at least one or two.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen with the British F3? Are they going to try to run it in a more condensed calendar, or are they just going to join up a load of events?
I think they'll reschedule the rounds. I think instead of finishing in September, which we might have done previously, we'll probably end in November or something like that. Because I think British F3 and like the British Touring Cars and Toka weekend, they're so big of an event in British motorsport that they will find gaps and they will reschedule. But I don't think it will start until end of June, maybe July.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a shame that nothing's going on, but I hope, for your driving sake, I hope they don't clash too much.
Yeah.
Real shame, but so out of all the tracks that we have this season, I know last weekend was it was this weekend we were meant to have Cadwell, but out of all the tracks we were meant to do this season, if we could only do two, which two would you prefer to drive at?
So I haven't driven them yet, but I really want to do Donington. That looks incredible, especially Sector 1. And then also Alton Park. I think that'd be really cool, especially the back section through the woods. Yeah.
Yeah, those places you've seen the F3 driving, or you've been with F3 and thought that looks like a really good track to get out on.
Yeah, Spa. There's too many tracks now. Macau is awesome. That's probably one of the coolest tracks I've ever been to. It's a street circuit in China where it's just like there's no room for error. It's flat out through one section and then tight and twisted through the other, which is a really big challenge for us to find with the engineers to find the aero balance.
Yeah. Was it an F3 that or was it Sophia? She had that mega crash. That was
Yeah.
yeah.
That was at Macau, and she hit one of our drivers because one of our drivers slowed down for the yellow flag, and she ran out the back of one of ours and then knocked all the wheels off. And was just passenger really. So
Yeah, and I mean that was a crazy crash, but I mean she walked away from it, which
yeah, it's incredible.
quite incredible. Yeah, yeah. And so did they restart the race after that? After it was red flag, wasn't it?
Yeah, they did red flag it, but I think they ran it. They carried on doing it, but I think it might have been reduced. But I can't remember. I didn't do that year. I did the year before.
Right, fair enough. So, with F3, do you go to all the races as the number one mechanic, or do you go to certain races and someone else takes over for the ones you're not there?
So for this year, I'll be number one on the British F3. So I'll do all the British F3 cars for that one car. I might go and help out another team or something if they're short on staff. But that'll probably be as like a number two role and vice versa. Some people might come and help us as a number two or something like that. But no, every race that my car runs, I should be the number one mechanic. That's how it was last year. So
cool. That's really cool. And how do you find like the traveling to all the races?
Yeah, previously, obviously, the first 2 years, it was flying like twice a month going somewhere. And it was cool at first, but it does get a bit tiring after a while. And then, yeah, now this year and last year is pretty easy. Everywhere's in the UK, so it's only a few hours to get to tracks, which is quite nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think the traveling is a lot of extra work and effort. So it's probably easier to turn up to the track. You've only driven a few hours to get there.
Yeah, and it's nice when everyone speaks the same language and you recognise the food and all.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, do you like? I know for the cars, we all just turn up at the event, but for the F3, do you meet up at at a base and then go to the track as a team, or do you all just turn up at a certain time?
So we'll all go to the workshop before, and then we've got a couple of people carriers, and then we'll just take turns driving to wherever we've got to go, or if it's an airport, we'll get a taxi to the airport or meet at the airport, something like that. So, yeah, normally travel as a team, which is part of the fun, really. So.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. So obviously working in F3, you had F4 previously. You've got a lot of technical challenges like F1 does. Is there anything that whilst you've been there that you've managed to, like, maybe there's a big mechanical problem that you've managed to overcome or managed to fix and improve the car?
The one that stands out is we were at Knockhill and we won the first race, I think, and then done quite well in the second one. Well, I've done all right in the second one, I think. And then the third race, we were starting on pole, and he was coming round for his warm-up lap to form on the grid, so we were waiting on the grid. And he didn't come round the last corner. We just saw him stop at the bottom. So sprinted down there, and then he said, "Oh, the car isn't working." So we're pushing it back up the hill, trying to figure out what's wrong with it, try and fix it to get back on the grid. While we're pushing it up, we realised that one of the drive shafts has snapped, which is a really horrible thing because there's nothing you can really do about it. They get checked every so often, but we've done a few days testing before. We've done a lot of racing, a lot of practice sessions and quality, etc. And it's quite a laborious track because there was so much up and downs and stuff like that, and it happened when he was doing a burnout. So we wheeled him back into the pit lane, and a job that should take 15, 20 minutes, we managed to do in under 5, I think it was. He didn't do well in the race because he was a few laps down, but it showed that when we put our minds to it, we could fix it quite quickly.
Have you raised the standard for that change now? Is that the standard time you have?
Yeah, I think we definitely fitted new drive shafts after that race.
Yeah.
Regardless of how old they were or how new they were, we just fit new. Yeah, because that weekend was horrible because we were like something stupid ahead in the points because we'd won 7 races on the bounce. And then that weekend our rival did really well and we just didn't turn up really. So that was one of the turning points.
Yeah. And going from the F4 cars to the F3 cars, in terms of how the cars are built and the mechanics of them, how much difference is there?
The F3 is so much easier. It's more of a race car. The F4 car it's got the same engine out the Fiesta ST. So there's just so much wiring and stuff that doesn't need to be, and it's just poorly made, the whole thing. The stuff on the car will just fail like that without warning. And you just have to be so aware of everything on the F4 car. Of course, you have to be the same on the F3 car, but it's known what will go wrong. You know what things you've got to look out for, and it's quite a solid car that will run and run and run rather than need constant checking. So.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I mean, yeah, I had no idea that the F4 cars are Fiesta powered.
Yeah, eco boost, but they're actually less powerful. They're 160 as opposed to the 180, which they are in the road car.
Yeah, well, they don't have a Fiesta attached to it.
Great. Definitely faster, but
yeah. And sorry, I forgot. Did you say you also had some time working in F2?
yeah, so I did a week's work experience at the start for GP2. That was the year before they took a sabbatical in 2016. And I've done the odd days in here helping out the F2 team. And yeah, those cars are just incredible. Everything's just that much higher standards, but then the money on it is just ridiculous as well.
Yeah. So how similar are they to the F3 cars in terms of the mechanics and the build?
So compared to the British F3 car, they're not really very similar. I mean, you've still got the same layout. You've got a chassis, an engine, and then a gearbox. But there is, yeah, the differences are quite huge. There was more similarities between the Euro F3 car and the F2 car because they're both built by Dallara. But again, they're still quite far apart, to be fair.
Okay, fair enough. And do you think at some point you'd like to move up to F2 and work there, or at the end of it, F1?
Yeah, I think F1 is probably the main goal. That definitely was the goal when I was a kid. The reason why I got into this. I think this quite big of it is just the challenge, and especially the pit stops. How you can make or break a race for a driver, and to be on that high of a level is just would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I like Williams. Have you seen the Drive to Survive show on Netflix?
Yeah, I've only gone halfway through season 2 because I'm supposed to be watching it with my dad, but I'm not living at home at the moment. So,
have you got to the bit where they show it's just a couple seconds, but William, they have a machine that brings the tire along, it stops, and the mechanics change the tire, and it goes off. And that's all done with one machine, and like Williams have had the record for the shortest pit stop for ages until Red Bull broke it this year.
yeah,
So
I know our F2 blokes. They built the same sort of rig you're talking about. So we've got one of those at the workshop where it randomly comes in different speeds, different heights, and all the rest of it. And they have to take the wheel on and off as fast as they can. Obviously, they do real pit stops as well, just like F1. But they're one man to a wheel as opposed to 3.
yeah, this is probably a question that I should have asked you a lot earlier. But do you do as number one mechanic?
So basically, I'm just the whole running of the car. I'm totally responsible for. Your road car, you'd have it serviced every year or so. These cars get serviced in between, before and after every single event session. You name it, they're always constantly being pulled apart, checked, cleaned, and making sure everything's safe and reliable. So then obviously I also have to deal with when the crashes, got to put it back together, make sure it's safe, make sure that it's going to be reliable so it can finish that race and it's set up how they want it to be set up. Not how the engineers want it to be set up. So yeah, that's the gist of it.
Yeah. So would you say it's more of a managerial job than a hands-on one?
No, I'd say I'm obviously I'm managing the car in that I am responsible. If something does go wrong, it's my fault and no one else's. But it is hands-on in that I do 90% of the work. We have number twos who will come in and help us. At this level, we only have one between 3 cars, whereas other like Euro F3 we had one per car. But I've got to use the number twos to help them learn, obviously, but to help me as well get the job done. So there's a management aspect of that as well, I guess.
Oh, yeah, I didn't realise that. You actually you're the one working on the car, pulling it apart and putting it back together.
Yeah, everything is done by me.
That's quite a massive job, especially for the caliber of like F3 cars.
Yeah, no, it's quite surreal to think about it sometimes.
Yeah.
Where I started washing wheels a few years ago, I'm now in charge of like a proper F3 car, which is quite cool.
Yeah, and so how did you learn all of your mechanical stuff to get to that point?
Well, my use of tools and stuff came from my dad because he was a mechanic for over 34 years. And we bought a comma camper van, which is basically the English equivalent of the VWs. We restored that when I was 12, got it up to MOT, painted it, all the rest of it, and then sold it. And I guess that's where I learned most of it. Learned basics of engines because it didn't start, but that's when you had distributors and all the rest of it. So it was carburetors, which is quite different to what we've got now.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah. Would you say which one is the easier car to work on, your F3 car or the Z4?
Oh, the F3 car, 100%. Yeah, definitely. I'd pick the F3 car any day of the week. That's a race car. It was built to come apart and go back together and to be fast, whereas the Z4 was originally designed to be cheap and to not have to come apart and apart from its 1 year service. And a lot of the stuff you're not supposed to take apart ever. So it's definitely a lot easier to do an F3
Yeah.
car.
Do you think that there's stuff that you could take from the F3 car, maybe like in terms of servicing or something like that, and transfer that to the Z4 car and kind of rework how it's made to be easier for you to like service and to race?
There's definitely tricks that you learn from working on the F3 cars all day. In like, there's an instance where we managed to snap a bolt or whatever in the Z4, and I ended up showing Dad a quicker way of taking the bolt out just through my work, despite all his years' experience. Just because from racing, we have to know how to do that quickly. And definitely there's setup changes that I know a quicker way of doing than what other people do and stuff. So there's definitely a link between the two of them.
Yeah. So how would you take out a snapped bolt quicker than normal?
So I think, well, some people would get a chisel and try and tap it round. But the way I found is quickest and the way we normally do it, if you can't get a set of grips on it, then get a left-hand drill bit, drill pilot hole, then get a bigger drill, and then the drill bites into it, and we'll undo it really quickly. Because what we have woods on the bottom of the F3, well, all the single seaters, and when the car runs along the ground, it grinds all the bolts down, so you don't have a head left, so you have to drill them out, and that's normally the fastest way. So.
Oh, well, that's a helpful tip for anyone who wants to watch it. Yeah. So big news today in terms of F1. Seb has left, or Seb isn't continuing with Ferrari. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I like him off track. I think he's a really funny guy, and obviously he raced for us back in the day, and I've heard he was a really nice guy. But I think on track, especially the last couple of years, he's just making too many mistakes and just being made to look like a fool by his younger counterparts of Daniel Ricciardo and now Charles Leclerc. Um, and I'm not sure if he's as fast as they are now, really.
Yeah, I mean it's difficult because he's 4 times world champion. There are very few people who can say that, and
Mm,
executive as well. So he's definitely a brilliant driver. But I think so with Ferrari he's not performed that well. I think especially in the 2018 season, that seemed like where he could have taken the title, but just bottled it and
yeah,
didn't deliver.
exactly. So,
Who do you think will take his spot as the second seat at Ferrari?
it's really difficult. I don't know. I know people are saying Ricardo or Sainz likely to replace, um, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Lewis ended up there. I think secretly he does want to go there. I believe. Um, I think his Mercedes contract is coming up this year, so whether you want to do that, I don't know. Because I know he wants to get as many world championships and stuff, and that's probably Mercedes a good place to do it. But I think he is that sort of driver that he could go into the second best car and still win it.
Yeah, I mean that's quite a bold prediction, but I like the way you put it at the end that he's that good of a driver. He can go into the second best car and still win.
Mm.
You can't really say that about a lot of people. Yeah, I think Ricardo and Sainz are the two most talked about for taking the seat, which I absolutely hate because I want Sainz to stay at McLaren.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I'm a massive McLaren fanboy. Since I started getting back into F1 last year and this year, or yeah, a couple of years ago, and waiting for it this year, I've kind of fallen back into love with McLaren. Um, and so I love their lineup of Lando and Carlos. I'd
mm.
love to see them fighting for championships with that lineup. So I don't want either of them to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Ricardo, yeah, he can go. I think Ricardo will do quite well at Ferrari. But you've also got Giovinazzi at Alpha,
Yeah.
who who's been there for a year now, and you've got the likes of Robert Schwartzman and Mick Schumacher coming up the ranks in F2. So this guy, well, who's going to be a placeholder for who, and or are they going to try and fight for a title with Daniel now?
Mm.
I don't know. It's a silly season all over again, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I don't know. It could be interesting. I if any of the current drivers would go, I'd like it to be Ricciardo because he's one of my favourite drivers because he's always smiling no matter what's coming his way. But yeah, you're right that you've got Schwartzman and Schumacher. I remember working in F3 when Schwartzman was there, and he just walked it, and he did such a good job in F3 last year. I think he'll be really good in F2 this year. I don't know about Schumacher because the first year he did F3, he wasn't anywhere special, like top 10 maybe. And then, yeah, he won it the next year. But at the start of the season, he was like okay, average. And then he just clicked something at Spa and was just fast from there. And then F2 last year, he didn't do amazingly well, I don't think. I don't think he was anywhere near the points from a lot of it.
Yeah, I know he won one race last year, but looking back at his when he joins a new series or when he goes up a series, it looks like he takes a year to really learn it
Mm.
and pushes for the title the next year.
Yeah. But then you've got someone like Schwartzman who can just walk in and then just be quick straight away. Or Armstrong, he's quick as well. So
Yeah, I mean that's the big challenge now because Schwartzman and Schumacher are teammates this year, aren't they?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so that'll be the real test to see how who gets the seat really.
yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, and of course Arthur Leclerc just signed for or the young driver program for Ferrari. So if they don't get their act together and make sure they win and get the seats, then they've got their replacement coming up right behind them.
Yeah, no, it's tough.
Yeah. Are there any drivers that you've worked with or like in F2 right now that you think are destined for F1?
Uh, I know we've got Jayan driving for us this year. Who we had first year I did F3 and the second year F3 he was driving for us, and he was really good in his first year. He struggled a bit in his second. He's got Red Bull back in this year, and I think he did quite well in pre-season, so he could be good. But it's all about whether there's a seat opening for him. So I don't know. There's a lot of young talent, I think, on the cusp of getting into F1. So I think in the next few years we could see quite a lot of young blood coming in.
Yeah, and I know was it the Pantera team, the Pantera Asia? They're thinking of or they're going to um, start their F1 team in 2022.
Mm. Yeah, I
Do
heard
you think?
something about an Asian F1 team.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'd love to see an 11th team on the grid,
Yeah.
but as long as they're well, I say as long as they're competitive, but I still love Williams, but they turned up at least, and they actually finished every race until Grosjean decided to punt off Russell, and it just went downhill from there.
Yeah. No, I think another team, more teams in F1 would definitely be a good thing. You look at the younger series where they've got more cars. Obviously, it's a combination of the younger drivers being a bit more reckless and the cars being a bit more equal. But having more cars as well gives more chances for more battles. So I think it'd be a great thing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, and yeah, I mean, I've loved watching the F2. I've loved watching that when they show it before the F1. It's great. Who's the second commentator? The Italian guy. He's
Oh, I don't know his
hilarious.
name, but he's brilliant.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he's so funny. But yeah, it's good. Uh, so yeah, sticking with F2 actually. Did you did you see the incident in Spa?
So yeah, I remember seeing. I was on holiday, I think, at the time, and I remember seeing the footage. Yeah, that was really, really scary. And just a reminder of how dangerous the sport can be at times, and that we're not invincible, despite the amazing safety work that goes on behind the scenes. But yeah, really sombering moment.
Yeah. How was how was how were the feelings when you got back to work after that?
Yeah, I think it hit everyone. I think the whole motorsport community, um, whether they were rivals of him or they didn't like the team he worked for or anything, we all felt really saddened that we'd lost someone. And yeah, it was just that reminder of how close these guys are to the edge, and that the slightest issue or slightest problem can lead to something as severe as that.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it live and I sat there watching it, and I think I nearly threw up. I was like, oh no, oh no, this has happened. They're not showing anything. Oh, this has really happened. Um, and yeah, it was crazy thinking that, and because I've grown up watching F1. I've loved watching it. I love driving. I want to get into track driving, and I think that it made me think. I was thinking, like, shit, this is one of the safest motorsports in the world, and this has happened there.
Yeah.
And I want to get on track in my fucking rusty ass Z3. And then a few hours later, I was like, I thought about it, and I was like, no, this is what I do want to do this. And I was looking up doing my odds test, but I think that maybe I've just grown up with that mentality or been around motorsport enough that I know that that's the consequences of it. But if you really love it, you put the helmet on and you go for it.
Yeah. I think that's part of the reason it is a risk, and that's why everyone does it. I think that's a big part of it, and the adrenaline rush it gives you that you are close to danger. Really, I mean, you saw it at Brands when Carlin got put on his roof. Yeah, I mean, he was walked away, and it was great that he walked away, but it showed that how close, how dangerous things can be. Or when Dad hit that post at Cadwell at 80 mile an hour and the damage it did to the car, but it also showed how strong that roll cage was, and he only came away with like minor lip whiplash and a couple of bruises and bits. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. So it's stuff like that is sombering, but I mean, you you get back on with it, don't you? The rest of the season, and try to think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's yeah. You're saying that we or drivers they do it. It's for the risk. It's for the adrenaline, that feeling of being on the edge. And have you been watching any of the F1 esports races?
Yeah, I've watched bits and bobs, highlights and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand that there's only a certain amount of realism that you can capture in a sim, and the F1 game is more of a game than a proper simulator. But what do you think about people saying that it's really that much of a sport?
Um, and I can understand where they're coming from, because you are sat behind a computer at the end of the day. But I think it's great what they're doing. I think keeping people's interests up, and giving us something for us to look forward to, and it has given us some really good footage to watch. For instance, I don't know if you watched the IndyCar 500. That was
Or
really
the end of
interesting.
it.
Maybe for the wrong reasons, but it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I saw that Lando was racing the first one. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll watch that, and I completely missed it. And obviously, he won. And I saw he was racing for the second one. I was like, oh yeah, I'll watch that. I completely missed it, and saw all the news about Pagano, you know,
Yeah.
purposefully slowing down or punting Norris off.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a lot of a lot of what was it, things to be said on our group chat at work, because obviously a lot of us have either worked with Lando, and some people have known him before he started driving for us. And I think a few of them were a bit upset about what happened, and also what Ferrucci did at the end as well. How pointless that was. He just drove into, I think it was Askew at the last, just before they crossed the line, and then to say, "Oh, it's just a video game," but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wasn't Ferrucci banned from actual track driving?
Yeah, so F2 banned him because, or they might only a temporary ban, because he drove up the back of his teammate on purpose, and also I think he drove from the F2 pit lane to the F1 pit lane on his phone. He had his phone in the car, I think. So yeah, it's a bit worrying that he's done that in real life, and now he's doing that in sim racing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised that. Well, I haven't looked up anything yet, but there's nothing out there that he's had any repercussions from it. But wasn't there another Indy event, or maybe it was a NASCAR event, where one of the drivers did something stupid and they lost their seat? Their team just went, "Yeah, no, you take this seriously. You haven't. You're done."
Oh, I didn't hear about that, but it wouldn't surprise me because you're representing sponsors at the end of the day. So if they're made to look bad, whether it be in real life or in esports, you're still making them look poor and making yourself look like a bit of a muppet.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's great. Man, didn't Dan Ticktum he got banned from what was it, F2 or F3 for ramming into the back of, was it Ricky Collard or something?
Yeah, so he got banned from all racing for a year. Yeah, I've seen the footage because obviously we competed in F4 when he did that, and I've seen the footage of him overtaking the whole pack behind the safety car to catch up with. I think you're right. I think it was Ricky Collard and drive into him to take him out. And yeah, I think that's where he gets a bit of reputation from, which he still hasn't shaken. I don't think.
I don't think you can ever shake that reputation. I mean, I know he's what, development driver for Williams now, or
Yeah. So he got
yeah,
kicked off the Red Bull program, didn't he? Now he's Williams.
yeah. I don't know how much of an actual, yeah, if we want you to develop and race for us from Williams, that is, or whether it's yeah, we might want you to pay for a few things here and there, but you can have this job.
No, I think he is actually genuinely quite quick because we've had him drive for us a few times in testing bits, I think. And everyone says he's got amazing car control. He can come out of the garage sideways and keep it sideways for most of the pit lane. So yeah, he definitely's got talent. But yeah, I think unfortunately, I think that event has kind of shadowed him for quite a long time.
Yeah, no, that's quite interesting you say that, because it kind of sounds like he's one of those old school type Formula One drivers where they've got all the talent in the world. Maybe like a James Hunt type. They're all the talent in the world, but they're really hot headed.
Mm. Yeah, I think he's calmed down more recently, but yeah, you're right. I guess that is, I'm sure I'd love that comparison.
Yeah. All right. I've got some quick fire questions. So yeah, know you a little bit, or see how quick you are with these answers. I should remember most of them. If not, I'll come up with some random ones. But a good place to start. What's your favorite flavor of crisps?
Cheese and onion.
Cheese and onion. That's a good choice. What's your favorite song right now?
I don't know. Megan, what's my favourite song at the moment?
Can you do like that?
I can't tell you. There's loads of different stuff. Old school stuff like Hendrix and bits like that, and Beatles. But I also listen to new stuff as well. So, yeah, loads of different stuff.
That's cool. I mean, Oh, I did have a Hendrix poster up at some point in my early teens, but now I've just got the GTA and Bullet for My Valentine one.
Yeah.
I had like a couple Slash posters in the Led Zeppelin one. I love that era of rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. Right, quick fire questions. This is meant to be quick fire questions. What's your favorite dessert?
Oh, chocolate fudge cake.
That's a good one. You're down at the pub. What do you order?
Sorry, what, drink or food?
Drink.
Beer and Marais.
Ooh, that's nice. And I think of a good one now. If you could have any car, no monetary restrictions. Don't have to. You just choose whatever car you want. What car are you getting?
I love McLarens, so it'd probably be a P1.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good choice. Why the P1 over the other McLarens that are out there now?
I think it's really cool because it's not just a road car, and there's so many aspects from it that come from racing. And it's just got loads of geeky stuff on it, which I love.
Do you think that might be a little bit easier to take apart than the Z4?
Nah, I think that'd be a bit hard. Yeah.
No, it's got batteries in it, hasn't it? Not at all.
Yeah.
A bit of a less quick fire question. What do you think of the move to hybrid and battery technology? Do you think that will last and that will become the mainstream, or do you think that that's just like a placeholder for something else like hydrogen? Or have you even looked to anything that much?
I'm not sure. I know junior categories like F4, they're going hybrid soon. And I think I can see why they've done it. Obviously, for the manufacturers to be interested, there needs to be a link between the road cars and the race cars. And there is a lot of V6s on the roads. And obviously there's a lot of hybrids. So I don't know if it's going to go anywhere anytime soon. I mean, I'd love for it to go back to the V10 days and then have the V8s back in F2 and have naturally aspirated engines. But at the end of the day, turbos, you can't argue with their fuel efficiency and their power output. So
yeah, those were ungodly sounds. They were amazing.
Yeah,
nothing beats those. I think I slightly works. I love F1 and I love motors in general. Love cars, but to see it all go electric, I think that would kill it.
Yeah.
I kind of hope F1 sticks to a combustion engine as long as possible, and instead of going fully electric, it just jumps to whatever other fuel source we come up with or we develop at the right time.
I mean,
we could have V10 hydrogen engines.
Yeah, hopefully I don't think they'll go fully electric, because I mean, if you've got Formula E, there's no need for it really, and I think that's quite a big part of the appeal is the petrol engine that it's got.
Yeah, right. I think that's a good time to wrap up. It's been amazing talking to you. Thanks for all your insight and answering all the questions.
That was a nice chat.
Yeah, cool. Right. Well, take care, stay safe, and we'll talk sometime soon.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Cheers.
When I